Former President Donald Trump is leading President Joe Biden in 6 of the 7 most competitive states in the 2024 election.
These are the states that are going to be the most competitive and most likely to determine the outcome.
Here are 5 takeaways from the Wall Street Journal's new poll. The poll found that in a head-to-head matchup, Trump leads between 1 and 6 percentage points in 6 states. The one outlier was Wisconsin, where the 2 candidates are tied.
One thing we're seeing in this poll is that President Biden has a significant challenge in holding together the coalition that elected him in 2020.
In that same survey, voters were quizzed on which of the 2 candidates they'd prefer when it came to the economy, immigration, abortion, and mental and physical fitness needed to be president. On these 3, voters preferred Trump over Biden by 20 percentage points. The only issue Biden polled higher on was abortion, where he led Trump by 12 percentage points.
People have a lot of things in their minds, and it's the job of the campaign to make the issue that's most favorable to them top of mind in voters. For Biden, that's going to be abortion. You'll see them out there talking quite often about Donald Trump's role in nominating Supreme Court justices who overturned Roe v. Wade.
Trump proudly says, quote, "After 50 years with no one coming close, I was able to kill Roe v. Wade."
At the same time, you see Donald Trump out there trying to make immigration the most salient issue, at least right now, in voters' minds.
It's a border bloodbath, and it's destroying our country.
And which issue is dominant as voters go to vote could determine, for undecided voters, which lever they pull. One thing that screams out from this poll is the broad dissatisfaction that voters have with the economy. And in fact, in these 7 swing states, voters are more focused on the economy and more sour over the economy than are voters nationwide. And that's a problem for Joe Biden. The economy is strong by traditional measures, but people aren't giving the president credit for it. And that's something he's going to need to address.
The survey also found an unusual dynamic. Voters in these battleground states say the national economy is in bad shape, but conditions in their home states are generally good.
This is one of the puzzles that we see in polling, not just in this poll, but in many polls. People say that the economy is doing poorly, but they quite often say that their own finances and their own part of the economy is doing fine.
Third-party and independent candidates represent an unpredictable element in the election.
15% as of now say that they would vote for a third-party candidate or an independent candidate like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. or Cornel West. And when you add in that some people who right now say they're going to support Trump or Biden say that it's possible they'll vote for them, but not definite, you get as much as a third of the electorate that's still up for grabs.
When asked who they would vote for in a 2024 election that included third-party and independent candidates, voters again favored Trump in Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, North Carolina, Nevada, and Pennsylvania. Kennedy is seeing the most support in Nevada with 15%.
Robert F. Kennedy represents a real wild card in this election. We found that he is much more attractive to Republican voters than the Democratic voters. That suggests that if he gets on the ballot in these states, which is still an unknown, he could take more votes from Donald Trump than he takes from Joe Biden. But there are going to be other candidates on most of these ballots. Libertarian candidate, Green Party candidate, maybe Cornel West, another independent. And those as a group seem to take more from Biden than from Trump. If you ask about all these candidates together, their effect seems to cancel each other out.
But the pollsters consider voters who back these candidates to be persuadable and potentially open to backing either Trump or Biden. The voters most up for grabs view Biden, Trump, and the economy more unfavorably than do voters overall. Some 74% rate the economy as poor or not so good, compared with 63% of battleground state voters overall. Some 67% view Biden unfavorably, and 61% hold a negative view of Trump, in both cases about 8 points higher than among all voters in the survey. One result is that Biden is seeing declining support among Black, Hispanic, and young voters.
A mere 68% of Black voters saying that they're ready to vote for Joe Biden, compared to about 90% nationally in the last election. When you see Hispanic men, as we do in this poll, favoring Trump over Biden, that's a real problem for the Biden campaign. If it suggests a long-term trend, it's a real problem for Democrats broadly. It suggests that their coalition is fracturing, but it could be that this is a temporary feature and that in the course of the campaign, we have 7 months of campaigning, 7 months of advertising messages yet to come. Democrats and Joe Biden can win these voters back. Now, the poll does surface problems for Donald Trump as well. He's viewed more unfavorably than favorably. And when people think back to his time as president, they're kind of equivocal about how it was. He gets better marks as president than Biden does, but they're not overwhelmingly positive. Moreover, there's an important voter group that seems to be shifting away from Donald Trump. While young voters seem to be more open to voting Republican, seniors seem to be more open to voting Democratic. That's something to watch as we move forward and could be a potential trouble sign for Donald Trump.